Test 1, 2, 1, 2. We're on. Welcome. Today I want to run through installing and setting up Tracktion Waveform as a digital audio workstation, or DAW. Why Tracktion? I've paid for multiple versions over the years since version 2, and I find it quick to grasp and start using, while I've also got licenses for other packages such as Pro Tools, Ableton Live or Studio One. I keep coming back to Tracktion products for smaller projects because I can open it and get working in seconds. Why this quick tutorial? Tracktion Waveform 10 has recently been released as a free download and can be run on a Windows, Mac OS or Linux PC. This means you can share projects with anyone in a collaborative fashion, all using the same free tools. The free version, however, is just the DAW with some basic plugins but without any sound libraries. To start making music in a virtual space, some extra sound libraries will be quite useful, even if it is just to create a basic click or drum track as a guide. Additionally, some of the concepts around the audio settings and plugins may be unfamiliar to first-time users. Let's get into it then. First, jump into the Tracktion website. I'll provide links in the description to each of the websites that I'm referring to. Here's the Tracktion site, and it's advertising Waveform Pro, but if we scroll down we'll find Waveform Free as one of the first products on the page. You can click the download link, and to download the free version you'll need to register for an account. Once you've registered for the account, and which won't require any credit card details or payment information, you'll get an email confirming your account and you'll be able to log into that and download the Waveform installation file. Once Waveform has been downloaded, run the installation and open the program. Waveform will try to detect any audio devices and will guide you through a setup wizard. In the end, you'll get a welcome screen that looks something like this. For most people, the default values through the setup routine will be fine. For some with multiple sound cards or multi-track sound cards, these settings may become important a little later under the settings area here, but we'll dive into that in the future. Let's have a quick look at some of the projects here. The top two are actually sample projects that the installation wizard may offer to download for you. So it's worth downloading those samples, and then you can have a play with the sample files and see what other people do with this Waveform software. Let's have a quick talk about the basics. So our project list has got all the files we're working on. If we have a look at a project, we can see the edits that the project has. You can save edits for a project as many times as you like and you'll see them in the list of edits. This allows you to work on a project non-destructively, saving one edit and coming back to that if you make changes in a second edit that you don't necessarily like. To open up the edit, double click on it and you'll get the edit screen. You'll see each of these tracks on screen is showing you a track for the music itself. These tracks can be named You can create as many tracks down the screen as you like, and up the top there's a little summary of the tempo, the markers, which we'll dive into in the future as well. The markers provide you with a quick guide for your song structure, and if you wanted to, you can also make use of the chords to note or make it easier to play along with the song. I've created a track called Click Track for my purposes here, and then we've got other tracks down the screen. If you want to scroll up and down the screen, keep your mouse over the track names and run the scroll wheel up and down. If you run the scroll wheel in the middle of the screen here, you'll zoom in and zoom out of your tracks rather than scrolling up and down the page. If you want to enlarge the tracks, you can hold down hold down Control and scroll up and down, which will shrink or enlarge the tracks you're looking at. And if you want to move back and forward in a track, hold down the Shift key and scroll back and forward through the tracks. You'll notice that we're getting lots of little pop-up guides everywhere I move my mouse. I get little pop-ups telling me what I can do or describing each element. These can be quite useful for the first timer. You'll also notice at the top right that a little message comes up telling me what I can do. All these hints can be turned off in the settings, but they're quite useful for people using the software for the first time. The power of Tracktion, I think personally anyway, is how quickly and easily you can, one, select the recording preferences for a track, and two, you can add a plugin for a track. I'll show the plugin process now by adding an equalizer to this bass track. I grab the little plus button up the top for the plugin and I drag that down, and then Tracktion will ask me what plugin I want to add. These waveform plugins are all the plugins that come with the platform when you install it. If I select a 4-band equalizer, a 4-band equalizer now pops up in my screen. I could tighten up the low end and pull that down to give a bit more space around the 40 Hertz mark, and I can just type in directly the value I want. That's a little bit too much, but give a bit more space around the 40 Hertz mark for the kick drum. And I could boost a little bit of the top end. That might be too much. We'll grab this channel, I'll tighten it up a bit, and that can provide a bit of air at the top end for the bass guitar. And in this range of around the 600 Hertz where it can get a bit muddy, I'm going to pull out a little bit as well. Once I'm done with the 4-band EQ, I can click the cross, but I can always click back on the plugin over here and show the plugin settings. Each of these items will have context-sensitive actions pop up down the left-hand side. So for example, if I wanted to name one of my markers, I can click on the marker and I get a name here, and then I can make changes in this window. Down the bottom we get what we call the transport controls, where we can play the track or fast forward or record items. We also get, again, some context sensitive edit options, and so I can also change the name for that marker down the bottom here. If I wanted to add markers, I click on the markers up the top and I can put my cursor where I want the marker. This dark line nominates the place where we're going to add a marker or play from. I can click the add button down the bottom and then I get my marker. The little arrows can make it larger or smaller, and I can click on anything and click delete. The controls down the side, the plugins also provide a mix option for an overall volume, a pan control, and a level meter, and then a mute and a solo option for when you're playing tracks. And you can also see down the bottom drop master plugins here. If you wanted to plug in to affect the whole mix, you can drag a plugin down the bottom. You get exactly the same list of plugins available, and you can create a plugin that's going to run across everything in the mix. Now let's quickly dive into the next piece that's our biggest issue with the free version, which is the sound libraries. The free version doesn't come with any sound libraries. It comes with some synthesizer plugins for some synth sounds, but what we'd really like is some drum kits or something like that. If I press the spacebar to play this track, which has got some MIDI data in it, I hit the spacebar, or I can click play down the bottom, and I get silence. Nothing's coming out. If we want something to come out, we need to get a hold of some sample sounds, and that's where some Google searches can help us out. Let's dive into some of these Google searches. I found a best free VST instruments site, and I had a look through, and that gave me Stephen Slate drums samples and the Vasilian Studios upright piano sample. The Stephen Slate drums, I had to sign up on the site and enter a password that was emailed to me, but after that I was able to download the free drum sample set and install them. The paid version comes with a lot more samples, but the free version has 3 kits that allow us to test out some sounds and create some guide tracks. The Vasilian VS Upright plugin gives us a decent sounding piano that we can use with some MIDI samples again. Now let's jump back to Tracktion. Tracktion will normally find those plugins once they've been installed. Typically Tracktion will be looking in under settings, file locations for plugins in the folders that are set up, and when you open Tracktion after some new plugins have been added, it will find them and make them available for you. I'm going to drag a new plugin down to my piano track here, and you will now see VST plugins and VS Upright as a plugin that I can use. Sorry, that didn't quite show up on the screen, but this now shows me the VST plugin. I'll also enable the same VST plugin on this track, and I'll enable the drum sampler on this track. If I click on the drum sampler, you can see on the right hand side here I've selected one of the preset kits, and that's loaded all the sounds in. Currently I'm just using that to run a click track. Tracktion does have a built-in click down the bottom here, but the benefit of using a click track like this is that you can include it in an export, so that if someone's listening to a mixdown, you can still include a click track in that mixdown. It also gives you more control around what you want the click track to sound like, allowing you to change the velocity of the clicks and produce a click track that might suit different time signatures. If I hit play on this track now, or press the spacebar, you'll hear a bit quietly in the background some audio coming through from those plugins. This then takes me to the next thing, which is a bass line that I've recorded on this track, which I've currently got muted. If I click on that and click up the top here on the spot where I want to play from, I'll hit the space bar and we'll see the bass guitar audio coming through now as well. This allows us to play along to a song and mute the pieces of the song that we don't necessarily want to hear at some point. So if I had recorded a bass and a guitar track and someone was recording the keyboard track, then I would suggest they mute this chord guide that I've added in, and then they can play along and record one of those, the keyboard track as it should be, rather than just a quick chord guide that's in the track currently. The final thing we'll do is have a look at how we set up a track to record mode. On the left hand side of a track, we can select which input we want to have. Currently I don't have any showing up, so I need to check under settings and audio devices, and in my case, to get access to my sound card, my device type needs to be ASIO here. Most people with just a standard computer would use Windows Audio, but the ASIO allows me access to my 8-channel sound card. I can also choose the sample rate. Currently it's set to 44.1 for this particular project, but I can select other sample rates if required. And you can see the inputs down the bottom section and the outputs on the top section, and those that I've enabled. Now if I switch back to the track edit, I can select a channel for the input, and you can see if I select channel 3 that it's giving me an input signal. And if I'm going to record on this channel, I click the little record button which arms the channel for recording, so that when I click the main record option down here, we'll start recording on that track. The other thing that can be handy while you're recording is to make sure that when you've selected a channel, live input monitoring is enabled here, allowing you to plug in a pair of headphones and listen to the track that you're recording, giving you direct feedback on what the sound quality on that track is like. If I armed this for a recording and press the record button, we'd start recording straight away. I can stop the recording at any point. If I've got some silence at the end that I want to remove, I can grab the trim option. There's also some fade in and fade out options in each top corner that we can pull in or out. I can move the track around, I can copy and paste that track, and if I really don't like it, I can right click on the track and select the delete, also deleting source files option, which will delete that recording forever. That's a quick introduction to Tracktion Waveform free, and I'm hoping that we'll get the opportunity to record some more in-depth tutorials. If there's particular topics you'd like to cover, please add them into the comments below and I'll do my best to cover these off in the future. Thanks for watching.